Welcome to my December garden. We are going to pot up some cuttings that we rooted for propagation. We are going to get clever and find a good reuse idea for our candle jar. So when we've burnt out a candle, but we have that beautiful glass jar left over, what do we do? So we're going to come up with something cute for that. And we're just going to stroll on by the garden on our way into the greenhouse where we're going to work today and see what exactly is happening after a frigid week in the 20s here, which is very, very unusual. Hi, you guys. This is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. My garden is located in growing zone 8B, and I am in southeastern North Carolina, despite the fact that it's freezing even right now. So yes, it's very chilly and it's not actually warm enough being just in a jean jacket, but since we're working inside the greenhouse where it's very warm, I had to kind of meet in the middle here. So as we're heading toward the greenhouse, we're gonna walk right by my rock garden here. I just wanted to point out a couple of things that we've been kind of taking notice to this past whole gardening season and just show you what's been happening now that the temperatures have been so ridiculously low. So the blanket flowers here have gotten very wimpy, but you can see that the foliage is still alive. So it'll be very interesting to see if when the weather warms up again, if we start to notice any more blooms on here. A lot of other things, of course, have died back, but one of the other things I was hoping to point out here is my creeping moss phlox that is kind of springing back like, ooh, cool temperatures are back again, almost like very, very early spring. That's when this baby thrives. So it's kind of funny to see these blooms back on the creeping moss phlox. And then lastly, I wanted to point out this cordyline. This was the first time that I had planted cordyline in the actual ground. Now I would say, the foliage is obviously dying because it's not going to stay in these frigid temperatures, but it's sort of beautiful because we still have the purple edges here and it just looks kind of cool. So I expect this to die back completely and then we'll see what happens in the spring. So firstly, we are going to be potting up some rooted cuttings that we took of some begonias and some coleus. Now, we started this process at least a month ago, sometimes 2 months ago, depending on what it was, and we were getting ready for overwintering. So we were taking little snippets of things that we wanted to keep. And I told you that my little secret is I like to root things in water because it's simple and because I get to watch the root growth so I can see, okay, does it have roots yet instead of it just being in soil. And then I store these things all in my garden bathtub in my master bathroom. So I have lots of little jars like this around in my bathtub. And if I'm very good and organized, I label everything with dates. So I know exactly how long it took for roots to form on my plants. So what I want to show you is some fails that I have, as well as some goody things that I have, so we can kind of learn from my experience. So first of all, I'm going to start with a fail. We talked about sweet potato vines and how easy sweet potato vines are to root because in fact they only take I think we said 8 to 10 days for the roots to really shoot out instead of about 4 to 6 weeks like a lot of other plants take. This is rooting sweet potato vine in water. And so I had my cutting sitting on my bathtub and I showed you the rooted cuttings. Well, I had been very proud of how short of a time it took to get the beautiful roots. However, there's the beautiful roots, but I didn't get it into soil. And so now my plant is dead. So I learned a little bit of a lesson here. Well, it's something I already knew, but I reminded myself, I don't want to just leave my cuttings in water indefinitely. Now, let's be honest, we are busy people. So I'm not going to say to you, oh, you better be checking your stuff regularly or else. That's not always reality. Instead, my bit of advice here would be take more than one cutting of something that you want to try to root and then propagate because you may kill one. So this was my sweet potato vine that I did not do a good job with. Luckily, I still have more because I've overwintered some right here in the greenhouse, so I will be able to take more snippets and grow more, but that was not good. I took way too long keeping it in water. Here is another lesson. This is a coleus. This coleus I took from my friend's yard and I rooted it in water. It's no problem at all, and it's taken just about 4 weeks now. So my roots are about long enough to get it into soil. I just would like to say that this little stem cutting I took of her plant rooted beautifully. I did also take leaf cuttings. The leaf cuttings did not root for me at all. So that's just something to think about. So this is a coleus that we're going to plant into soil today. And here's another example of one that I did that I had shown you. I had a little tiny piece just like that, and I potted that up. So this has been living in my garden tub. So now that one will be too. So that's the coleus and sweet potato vine. The other thing that we are planting today is begonias. See, now I wanted to point this one out in particular because while I did take almost all the leaves off of the stem, I left the flower on just because. A lot of times people say you can't leave flowers on or don't leave any leaves on, and maybe that's true in certain cases, but the begonia rooted just fine, and this guy's ready to put into soil as well. So I have multiple cuttings of this begonia. So we are going to pot up the rooted cuttings first, and then we are going to jump into the project of our candle jars, leftover candle jars. Obviously, you guys know by now that I am very much into reduce, reuse, recycle, and save money any way we can. So this project is a little bit about saving money, but I think it's more about reusing things that we don't have to stick in the garbage. Because not for nothing, I burn a lot of candles and I have all these jars left over at the end of the burning time. And I think, what the heck am I going to do with them? They're glass. They're pretty. You know, I hate to think of landfills being filled up with things like that. So I keep every kind of leftover pot I can from things that I purchase just so I can do projects like this. So here's some of my little containers that I'm just filling with potting soil. And I mean, gosh, this is the simplest part of the... This project is so simplistic, it doesn't even really require instructions because all I'm doing is putting potting soil in here, sticking my finger in there to make a hole, and where's my coleus? My coleus is going to be probably one of the most important things because this is a clipping from a friend, not something that I have of my own, and I want it to live. So I'm just putting that inside of its potting soil. It has roots, which means it can take water in now. It doesn't just need to take water in from its surface, from, you know, me spraying it with water or something. So that guy's already ready to go. And the begonia with the flower, incidentally, came from my mom's pot that I told my mom I would overwinter for her because she lives in a colder climate. So I have multiple cuttings of that begonia. And I think when I label this, because I will label all of my, even what I pot up, I want to label them in time so I know exactly how long it takes for it to start producing, you know, more leaves and bigger growth and all that kind of stuff. I think I'll label it as Mom's Begonia. Okay, so for our next little fun project, this is a jar that used to have a candle in it, and I finished the candle. Same thing here. So what I do when I'm finishing a candle, this is a great example of one I wish I didn't finish because it smells so good. But when I get to the bottom and it will no longer hold the flame down at the wicks, I basically take a butter knife or something and I just scrape the bottom of my candle jar until it's empty. And then I let this soak with soap and water. Not that that does a fabulous job getting the wax loose, but it kind of does. And then I just wipe it with a wet paper towel and soap until it comes completely clean. Then I'm left with these beautiful jars. Some of them have like little paintings or artwork on them, all sorts of different things. And I just hate to take this. This is pretty sturdy glass and toss it in the garbage. So what I have been doing with mine, and I thought maybe you would like this idea because it is the holiday season and you'll possibly be burning a lot of candles also to keep a cozy atmosphere throughout the winter. What I am doing with mine is using them as little pots for arrangements. So once again, I'm using some evergreen cuttings that I have in my yard. And if you don't have an evergreen, see if you have a friend who will let you take some cuttings, especially for a project this small. It does not take very much. Getting some evergreens together. This is actually some juniper, which I did not use in my last evergreen project, but I still have some Leland cypress and I do have some magnolia cuttings. So the magnolia leaves are cool because they're green on the one side and brown on the other side. So I thought I might do one of these up with some magnolia leaves, the other one up with just the evergreens, and kind of go from there. I'm going to tie it off with a ribbon and have this adorable little arrangement that I can set on a table or on a mantle or anything. Now my thought here was not necessarily a money-saving thought, by the way. I'm going to fill these jars with dirt as the filler to hold these things in place. You can always use floral foam or something else, but since I didn't buy floral foam, I'm just going to use dirt to hold it in place. But as I said, this is not necessarily a money-saving kind of project, but instead, how about we don't throw out these beautiful glass jars and make little arrangements, like I said, for somewhere in our house. And I'm just going to work on filling both of them at the same time so I can just kind of get an idea as to what I like. I have berries from my Nandina again, just like I did in a previous project that I showed you. look, it doesn't have to be anything overly crazy, certainly nothing expensive at all, but they're adorable little containers that took virtually nothing to put together, and it saved these jars from going in a landfill. Now imagine you're going to a holiday party or a New Year's party, something, and you just want to bring a little gift for the hostess. Why not just use a little jar like this, fill it up with something adorable? The only thing I think you need is sort of a back layer, which is sort of tall, and a front piece, something eye-catching. In this case, I'm using the berry, so that's how I know that the berry is my front. Here, I did a little berry, but I also did like this little bauble, and it's something that I had, and we usually have things like that to go on packages and things anyway. So simple and just adorable. What's really crazy is it's probably 40 degrees outside, double that inside the greenhouse. So now I'm quite warm again after just working in there for a little while. Well, as you can see, this is what I am up to right now, kind of looking around the garden, seeing what's happening, making little creative things that I can stick in all sorts of different places or give away to people, etc. And of course, just looking after my little cuttings. Hopefully I'm not killing my little cuttings, but that's what I'm up to. What are you up to right now? I'm sure everyone is super busy, but I thank you for following along on this journey and continuing to be with me and continuing to send me awesome comments. I love it so much. And until next time, you guys, happy planting.